INFJs are often called walking contradictions, deeply empathetic yet fiercely private, gentle but unyielding, idealistic yet painfully realistic. To most people, this duality looks confusing, but to an INFJ, it's survival. Their depth forces them to balance two opposing worlds, the need to feel everything and the need to protect themselves from feeling too much. They can read people like open books, yet hide their own pages completely. They crave emotional connection, but retreat when it becomes too shallow. They dream of harmony, but carry storms inside that few ever see. This constant paradox isn't dysfunction, it's the INFJ's way of staying whole in a world that rarely understands their layer. Because every contradiction hides a deeper truth. The INFJ doesn't live in extremes, they live in balance. They understand that light and shadow are both part of empathy's cost. If you've ever felt too complex to explain, too sensitive to be fully open, or too wise to stay naive, this video will feel like a mirror. Subscribe for more deep insights about INFJs, psychology, and emotional intelligence. And tell me in the comments, do you feel your contradictions make you misunderstood or make you powerful? They crave deep connection but protect their solitude fiercely. For the INFJ, connection is both a hunger and a risk. They long to meet someone who truly sees them, not the polite version, not the listener, not the mirror of everyone else's emotions, but the quiet, raw soul behind their composed exterior. When they bond, it isn't casual, it's sacred. They listen deeply, remember details others forget, and feel emotions that aren't even theirs. To the INFJ, connection isn't about conversation, it's about resonance. But that same sensitivity that allows them to connect so deeply also makes them protective of their solitude. They've learned through experience that not everyone who reaches for their heart knows how to hold it gently. After too many moments of being misunderstood or drained, they've built solitude into their survival. Alone, they can breathe without analyzing every tone, word, or emotion in the room. Alone, they stop absorbing the noise of others and finally hear their own thoughts again. When an INFJ withdraws, it's not rejection, it's self-preservation. They need quiet the way others need company. Their solitude isn't loneliness. It's where they refuel, where they realign their energy after giving too much. It's where they rebuild the walls that empathy keeps dissolving. They can disappear for days, not because they've stopped caring, but because they care too deeply and it's exhausting. People who love INFJs often misunderstand this duality. They'll feel the INFJ's warmth one day and their distance the next, never realizing both come from the same place, a heart that feels everything too intensely. The INFJ doesn't mean to confuse anyone, they just live in a constant balancing act between connection and protection, empathy and exhaustion, love and self-preservation. This contradiction, craving intimacy yet needing distance, is what makes the INFJ so unique. They want to be known, but only by those who won't drain the meaning out of it. Because for them, connection isn't about proximity, it's about peace. And if peace can only be found in solitude, they'll choose it fiercely, quietly, unapologetically. Their solitude isn't a wall, it's a filter, one that ensures that when someone finally earns a place in their world, it's not just for a moment, it's for something real. They show calmness on the surface while feeling storms underneath. To the world, the INFJ often appears composed, unbothered, steady, the quiet presence people turn to when everything else falls apart. Their calmness feels almost unshakable, like a soft anchor in a chaotic sea. But what most never see is that beneath that serenity, there's a storm, 1,000 unspoken emotions colliding beneath the surface, all processed in silence. The INFJ's calm isn't the absence of feeling, it's the management of it. They've learned early in life that the world doesn't know what to do with their depth. When they express too much, they're called dramatic. When they express too little, they're seen as cold. So they've mastered the art of emotional containment, appearing tranquil while their mind dissects every tone, word, and motive around them. Inside, they're analyzing everything, the tension in someone's voice, the shift in the air, the unsaid words behind a smile. Every interaction becomes an ocean of data, emotional and psychological, that they navigate quietly, and yet on the outside, they seem perfectly fine. They're the ones who say, "I'm okay," even when they're unraveling internally, not because they want to lie, but because explaining the complexity of their emotions feels impossible. When the INFJ sits in silence, it's rarely peace. It's a processing storm, thoughts looping, emotions intertwining, empathy pulling them into other people's pain while they're still carrying their own. But they don't want to burden anyone with the chaos they feel. Their calm becomes a shield, a way to protect both themselves and others from the depth they know can overwhelm. It's not until they're alone that the mask cracks. That's when the tears come quietly, not from weakness, but from release. It's when their mind finally lets go of the tension it's been holding together for everyone else. People often mistake their composure for detachment, but the truth is far more complex. The INFJ doesn't feel less, they feel everything all at once. They've just learned that calmness is survival. Their silence is not emptiness, it's emotional gravity. And those who look closely enough will realize that behind that calm gaze is someone who feels the weight of the world and still chooses grace over chaos every single time. They analyze emotions with logic, feeling, and thinking at once. An INFJ doesn't just feel, they understand what they feel. It's a strange duality that confuses most people. How can someone be so emotional yet so rational at the same time? But that's exactly where the INFJ's hidden power lies, in their ability to merge the heart and the mind into one lens of perception. When an emotion hits, they don't drown in it immediately. Instead, their mind begins to dissect it, not to numb it, but to decode it. They'll trace the feeling back to its source. Why did that hurt me? What belief did that trigger? What pattern is repeating here? While others are reacting, the INFJ is already mapping the psychology behind their own emotions, quietly connecting dots that most people never notice. This ability makes them both resilient and lonely. Resilient because they rarely stay trapped in emotional chaos. Their self-awareness becomes their anchor. But lonely because few people understand this kind of introspection. When they express what they've uncovered, the emotional logic behind their reactions, others often misunderstand it as overthinking. In truth, it's not overthinking, it's precision. The INFJ mind is like a microscope that zooms in on feelings until the pattern becomes visible. They can sense both the emotional truth and the rational structure behind it, the why and the how of every experience. It's what allows them to empathize so deeply without fully losing themselves. But this blend of logic and emotion comes with a cost. It can make their heart feel like a battlefield. Part of them wants to feel freely, the other part wants to understand and manage it. They crave emotional surrender, but fear losing control, so they end up living between both worlds, half dreamer, half analyst. This is why INFJs rarely react impulsively. They take time, sometimes too much time, to process everything, to ensure their emotions align with truth, not illusion. Because to them, wisdom isn't just thinking clearly or feeling deeply, it's the harmony between both. And when that balance is achieved, the INFJ becomes something rare, someone who can feel with intelligence and think with empathy. They seek truth but soften it to protect others. INFJs have an unrelenting desire to understand the truth. Emotional truth, moral truth, psychological truth. They see through pretense almost instantly. While others get lost in words or appearances, an INFJ reads the intent behind them. They pick up the tone that doesn't match the smile, the hesitation in a compliment, the contradiction between what someone says and what they truly feel. Truth for them is never hidden, it's written in energy. But here's the paradox: even though they see it clearly, they rarely say it bluntly. They soften it. Because INFJs don't seek truth to win, they seek it to heal. They understand how fragile people can be when confronted with their own reflection. So instead of exposing someone's flaws, they'll guide them toward awareness with patience and empathy. They'll frame the truth like a mirror placed gently in the light, not to shame, but to illuminate. This emotional diplomacy often leaves them carrying the weight of honesty alone. They'll bite their tongue to keep peace, even when the truth aches to be spoken. They sense when a person isn't ready to hear what they know, and in that moment, silence becomes compassion. The INFJ would rather carry discomfort themselves than inflict it on someone unprepared. Yet this restraint has a cost. Constantly cushioning truth can make them feel invisible, unseen in their clarity. They become emotional translators, turning raw truth into something palatable for others while quietly longing for someone who can handle their honesty unfiltered. When an INFJ finally speaks the truth directly, it's not out of anger, it's out of necessity. By then, they've tried softness, silence, patience, and grace. And if they still speak, it means the truth can no longer stay buried without breaking them. Their version of honesty is rare, never cruel, never manipulative, just deliberate. They don't expose people to destroy them, they reveal truth to awaken them. Because deep down, the INFJ believes that the truth, when handled with empathy, isn't a weapon, it's medicine. And though few may ever see how much restraint it takes to balance that fine line, the INFJ knows protecting others from truth is easy, delivering it with love is art. They appear independent, yet secretly long to be understood. On the surface, INFJs radiate self-sufficiency. They move through life like they need no one. Quiet, composed, fully capable of handling things on their own. People admire that independence, often mistaking it for emotional detachment. But what they don't see is that behind that calm exterior lies a deep, aching desire to be seen. Not an appearance or achievement, but an essence. INFJs don't crave attention, they crave understanding. They want someone who notices the things they never say, who senses their exhaustion behind the smile, their hesitation in the silence, their warmth even when they seem distant. But because this level of connection feels so rare, they often stop expecting it. They retreat into self-reliance as both a defense and a refuge. If no one truly understands me, they think, then at least I can understand myself. This quiet longing becomes a paradox. They build emotional walls high enough to protect themselves and then wonder why no one climbs them. They say they're fine because they don't want to burden anyone, but secretly hope someone will look closer, question deeper, and prove that care doesn't always have to be requested. When INFJs do find that rare soul who sees them beyond words, it disarms them completely. Their guard drops not because they're weak, but because they feel safe, truly safe for the first time. Yet even then, they struggle with vulnerability. Years of being misunderstood have taught them that deep connection is both healing and dangerous. It's the one thing they crave and the one thing they fear losing most. So they balance between solitude and connection, independence and intimacy. They'll keep giving, guiding, and supporting others while quietly waiting for someone to do the same without being asked. That's the silent contradiction of the INFJ heart. Strong enough to stand alone, yet soft enough to still hope that one day someone will finally understand the language they never speak out loud. They forgive easily but never truly forget patterns. When an INFJ forgives, it's never out of weakness, it's out of deep emotional intelligence. They understand that holding on to resentment only poisons the soul, so they release the pain, choosing peace over bitterness. But what most people misunderstand is this: forgiveness doesn't mean forgetfulness. The INFJ mind records patterns quietly, precisely, and permanently. They notice the tone that shifts before betrayal, the repeated excuses that hide behind charm, the subtle inconsistencies that reveal truth over time. To others, it may seem like they've moved on, but inside, they've already mapped out exactly what happened, why it happened, and what it revealed about the person involved. This pattern recognition is their defense mechanism. It protects them from walking into the same emotional traps twice. They may give someone another chance, but it's never the same kind of chance. It comes with awareness now. They'll smile, they'll stay kind, but the depth of trust that once existed, that doesn't return easily. INFJs forgive because they understand human fragility. They know people act from their wounds, not always their intentions. Yet, even as they forgive, they silently adjust their boundaries. They stop explaining themselves to people who never listened. They stop showing up where effort isn't reciprocated. They stop trying to heal those who consistently reopen their wounds. This makes them appear distant to those who wronged them, as if they've changed. But the truth is, they haven't changed. They've learned. Every painful interaction becomes data for their intuition, a quiet upgrade in wisdom. The same empathy that once left them vulnerable now becomes their greatest filter. The INFJ's forgiveness is graceful, but it's also final in a way most people don't notice. Once they've connected the pattern, they stop arguing for potential and start accepting reality. They may never confront, never seek revenge, never even say a word, but the next time that pattern appears, they'll recognize it instantly. Because the INFJ heart forgives out of compassion, but the INFJ mind never forgets what it had to learn the hard way. They give endlessly, but withdraw when it's taken for granted. For the INFJ, giving isn't a transaction, it's instinct. They sense what people need before it's spoken. Reassurance, understanding, a listening ear, quiet presence. Their empathy runs so deep that helping others feels as natural as breathing. They'll stay up late, comforting someone who never asks how they're doing. They'll carry emotional weight that isn't theirs, believing that love means lightening another person's load. But here's where the contradiction begins. Their generosity has limits, even if those limits are invisible at first. An INFJ gives freely until they feel unseen. When their efforts go unacknowledged or exploited, something inside them begins to shift. The warmth that once flowed easily starts to cool. The smile stays, but the energy behind it changes. They stop reaching out first, they stop over-explaining, they stop giving to those who only know how to take. What most people mistake for sudden coldness is actually quiet exhaustion. The INFJ never stops caring, they just stop overextending. They've learned that some people don't want healing, they want attention. Some don't value empathy, they consume it. And after enough disappointments, the INFJ decides that peace is worth more than constant emotional rescue. The withdrawal isn't revenge, it's survival. They need solitude to refill what others drained without noticing. In that silence, they rediscover balance, the truth that love without boundaries leads to self-abandonment. When they return, they give again, but differently this time. Selectively, intentionally, with awareness of who has earned their energy. To outsiders, their retreat may seem heartless, but to those who truly know them, it's strength. The INFJ doesn't withdraw to punish others, they withdraw to protect the sacred parts of themselves that once gave too freely. Because eventually they realize love isn't proven through exhaustion, it's preserved through balance. And once an INFJ learns that giving must be mutual to be meaningful, they stop pouring into empty cups and start saving their empathy for those who value it as deeply as they do. They read people deeply, yet struggle to explain themselves. INFJs are emotional detectives. They see beneath words, past masks, straight into the emotional truth of others. They can sense when someone's smile is forced, when their tone hides pain, or when silence speaks louder than what's being said. They read motives, insecurities, and desires like a hidden script, often understanding people better than they understand themselves. But when it comes to expressing their own emotions, it's like trying to translate poetry into numbers. Their inner world is vast, layered, and deeply nuanced, a storm of thoughts and empathy constantly colliding. They feel so much that putting it into words feels like a betrayal of its complexity, so they stay quiet, they nod, smile, and simplify what's happening inside because experience has taught them that most people don't truly listen. They just wait to respond. This creates a painful irony. INFJs can articulate the emotional landscapes of others with surgical precision, yet stumble when asked, "How are you? Really?" They want to explain, but they fear being misunderstood. Again, they've learned that their depth can overwhelm, that their honesty can be too raw, and that vulnerability in the wrong hands becomes ammunition. So they speak in layers, enough to connect, never enough to expose. Still, beneath that silence lies a symphony of emotion. Empathy, confusion, love, frustration, and observation all existing at once. The INFJ doesn't struggle with self-awareness, they struggle with translation. Their world is felt, not spoken, and unless someone listens with genuine curiosity and patience, they'll never truly hear it. Though they continue to read others quietly, holding truths they'll never voice, they become the person who understands everyone, yet remains a mystery to most. Because for the INFJ, being known is both their greatest desire and their greatest fear. They're dreamers grounded in harsh realism. There's a strange duality that defines every INFJ. They dream like poets but plan like architects. In their heart lives a vision of what the world could be, honest, kind, awakened. They see potential in people, beauty in pain, meaning in chaos. Their imagination paints in vivid colors, a life full of emotional connection, integrity, and depth. But just beneath that, in quiet contrast, lies a razor-sharp awareness of how brutal reality can be. An INFJ doesn't float through life in fantasy. They've seen too much for that. Every ideal they hold is balanced by the memory of disappointment. Every hope is shadowed by experience. They can believe in the goodness of people while knowing exactly how selfish, fearful, or destructive they can become. This is the paradox that shapes their worldview, an idealist's heart inside a realist's armor. They dream, yes, but they never do it blindly. Their vision for change isn't naive optimism, it's built from the wreckage of lessons learned. They've been let down enough to understand that love without boundaries destroys you, that truth without empathy wounds more than it heals, that purpose without balance burns you out. So their hope becomes refined, not loud, not naive, but disciplined. You'll see it in how they move through the world, hopeful eyes paired with cautious steps. They might help someone rebuild, but they'll watch patterns before trusting again. They'll believe in destiny, but they'll work for it every day. They'll dream of connection, but they won't beg for understanding anymore. This blend of idealism and realism gives the INFJ an almost prophetic depth. They can envision the future clearly while never forgetting the cost of reaching it. And maybe that's why people misread them. One moment, they're speaking like philosophers about meaning and purpose. The next, they're dissecting human behavior like psychologists. They live between the heart and the mind, feeling everything deeply while analyzing it from a distance. To love an INFJ is to love that contradiction, the dreamer who never stops hoping and the realist who never stops preparing. Because in their world, hope isn't a delusion, it's survival. And the balance between what they feel and what they know is what makes them both mysterious and unstoppable. They love silently, but with unmatched intensity. When an INFJ loves, it's never halfway. It's not loud, not theatrical, and rarely spoken in grand declarations. It's felt quietly, completely, and all at once. Their love doesn't shout for attention. It lingers in the spaces between moments, in the way they remember the little things you said, and how they notice when your tone shifts or when your eyes betray the emotions you're trying to hide. To be loved by an INFJ is to be seen not just for who you are, but for who you're becoming, even if you can't see it yet. But that love is also sacred. They don't give it freely to anyone. It's something they build through trust, patience, and emotional safety. You won't even realize when it begins because it's never a sudden spark. It's a slow burning fire built quietly through understanding and presence. They'll study you like a story worth rereading. They'll listen when no one else does, not because they're trying to win you, but because they genuinely care. Their love is devotion disguised as stillness. Yet their silence doesn't mean they feel less. It means they feel too much. Words often feel too small to hold what's inside them. They'd rather show love through protection, through empathy, through remembering your fears and dreams, even after years. But this intensity is also their vulnerability. They fall for potential, they give until they ache, and they love in a way that most people can't comprehend. Because for them, love isn't just an emotion, it's a language of the soul. And when that love isn't reciprocated or is taken for granted, it breaks them differently, not in anger, but in quiet heartbreak. They'll retreat, not out of pride, but to protect what's left of their light. They'll never hate you. They'll simply disappear, carrying the weight of everything they never said. Because for an INFJ, love isn't about being chosen, it's about being felt. Their silence after love isn't emptiness, it's reverence for what once was, for what it meant, for how deeply they were able to feel. And while others may move on loudly, the INFJ's love remains unspoken, unseen, but forever echoing in the quiet corners of memory. The truth is, INFJs don't live in black or white. They live in the space between. They're not contradictions because they're confused, but because they're complete. They carry both chaos and calm, logic and emotion, hope and realism, all within one soul that never stops feeling or thinking. Their complexity isn't a flaw, it's their superpower. If you've ever felt misunderstood for being both soft and strong, quiet but intense, distant yet deeply loving, you're not broken. You're just an INFJ learning to balance the depth of who you are. Subscribe to Brainy One for more deep dives into INFJ psychology, personality, and emotional insight. And tell me in the comments which part of your contradiction do you struggle to explain the most?